welcome. Before we start, let me roll our intro. Okay, welcome. It's the first day of April, usually April Fool's Day, but I hate April Fool's pranks. I hope nobody tries it with me. Um, More importantly, it's the start of Q2 of 2021. Well, no matter what it is that you have achieved or not achieved, this represents, the opportunity for a new start. So let's go out and do our best to reel in those goals for the quarter. All right. If you're watching the replay, welcome. Thank you for watching. If you're on our YouTube page, please um, remember to subscribe to the channel. And if you're on the Facebook page, remember to like the page and follow so that you will get notifications when we go. Oh, volume. Can you hear me? Okay, can you hear me now? I hope you can hear me. So I was saying that even now, I've changed the mic. Can you hear me now? Ah, it's not better. Wow. I wonder what's going on. Okay, let me fix the mic again. Just a minute. Mm, Let me try again. Okay, let's see if this works better now. Is it better? Can you hear me now? Oh, fantastic, fantastic. All right. So I was saying that this is the start of a new quarter. And no matter what happened last quarter, we would have achieved some of our goals and, we may not have achieved some. Whatever it is, this is, the chance. I like the chance for a fresh start. So review those goals and go again with all your energy. Right. So let me now go. I have some really interesting questions this edition, right? And so without further ado, as our MCs usually say, let's go to question one. Okay, so question one is a question that comes up all the time. I get this question all the time. Many applications. What should I do? Okay, and you know, the answer is relatively simple, right? It's one of the most frustrating aspects of applying. The first thing I say is stop applying. First of all, the fact that you're applying to so many places is in itself a problem. It indicates a lack of targeting or focus. So stop, take a step back. So your step one is to really come back to yourself and say, what exact job, right, am I applying for? Job search requires focus. So you want to get clear on your own job needs based on your skills, based on your experience, right? Based on where you're going in your career, but be very clear about the job. Once you get clear about the job, your next step is to scan the market, right? Because no matter what the talent you have, if there's no demand for it, then you won't get a job. Yes. So your next step is to ask the questions, where are the opportunities? Who is hiring? What are they hiring for? businesses that I may serve, what are their needs? You must get very clear on where the opportunities are. So step one, stop. Step two, what are your job needs? What job are you really looking for? Step three, what does the market need? Not just what does the market need, but having discovered what the market needs, the next question is, how do I match those needs, or how can I meet those needs? And then from there, you identify, I've been talking about competitive advantage over the last week or so over on my LinkedIn profile, right? There are many people who can do the same general thing that you can do, but where you can compete is when you narrow, your field, right? And where you're competing to what matches your own unique skills and abilities in solving a problem. So you must then come back and ask yourself, what's my competitive advantage? What unique bundle of characteristics and skills, right, most will most best serve this smaller subset of the market? Very important. Then you define your positioning. Once you have done that, then you can go back and say, so now where are the job ads? As an, for starters, who is advertising? Study the job description, whether it's a job ad or whether it's an opening you got to know about directly. Whichever one it is, there's a job description. Study the JD very carefully and tailor your strengths, your skills, and your experience to match their criteria. We've always said it, right? One CV or one resume cannot fit all, cannot, right? I suspect from people who are doing multiple applications, many people just keep recycling the same applications. And the whole point, let me tell you, from the employer's point of view, from when you've advertised a job, your first task as the recruiter is to eliminate people, because you want, to shortlist. And how do you eliminate people? You pick those who most closely match, the criteria you are specified. In fact, if you look properly at a job ad, you will find that there are some criteria that they put essential, and there are some that they put preferred, right? And typically, the first task is everybody who does not have essential, you remove them first, right? Then you start to fine tune down the road. What does that mean for you as a candidate or as an applicant? It then means you must take the time to match what they say they are looking for and to make it easy, right, for someone who is doing the shortlisting to pick you out. Which brings me to the next point. In addition to matching, tailoring your strengths, your skills, and experience to match criteria, you must optimize your resume for both the applicant tracking system, which is how most employers or recruiters receive the applications online, as well as the human eye. In terms of the applicant tracking system, what you need to do is to match the keywords, the criteria, as I said, that that they are looking for. So the things that, like, when a recruiter presses search, right, in an ATS on LinkedIn or wherever else, the first thing that the search engine does is are the keywords in your title, how often are those keywords repeated throughout your resume? Do you match, those criteria? Just as you're doing it, just think of, oh, somebody is searching. If they're searching, what will they? Therefore, it means that you look at the job ad, you look at the words that they've used, right, and try and match those in your resume, right? Then for the human eye, your resume needs to be easy to read, right? Which means no blocks of text. Make use of bullets, make use of space so that it's really, really easy to, and then structure it in a way that presents the information they're looking for, right? First, and very easily. Doing optimizing your resume is one step out of my 9-step job search process, and I do an um, in-depth instruction, step-by-step instruction on how to get it done, so that every time someone looks at your resume, they select you because you've done the right things, right? So once you've optimized your resume, chances are that you catch the attention of either the ATS or the human eyes. The other mistake I see people make with their resume is that they are listing their responsibilities. Listen, you are trying to grab attention, so your main thing is to go for impact. What do I mean by that? Instead of saying I can do this, I can do that, right? You bring your accomplishments, not your responsibilities, your accomplishments. When you state an accomplishment, usually verified by your quantification, right? What you're saying, so the I can organize events, or I'm responsible for planning events, is a different statement from I have organized events. Um, I've organized 50 events with 200 participants. Can you see the difference? Your accomplishments speaks to the fact that you not only can do it, but you can successfully do it and have achieved results doing it. So think impact, accomplishments, not responsibilities. And then we then go to it. So if you're just looking at the resume, we've kind of covered it. But then you must also go to your strategy. One of the biggest points of frustration is when you're just applying cold. I always say that in terms of ranking, right, for successful job search, applying online to a job ad or applying via LinkedIn is much less successful than when you apply through a referral, for one simple reason. For every job ad, there's an average of 250 applicants, right? But if you're applying through a referral, it's much warmer. It's somebody who knows your work, that's talking to the hiring manager and saying, I know this person is fairly competent. That way your your resume, your application gets more tailored attention, or closer attention. That is why I often advise my job search people, your strategy should be 80% building a warm network to get referrals and 20% other types of job search activity. I can't go into detail, but I just know that a key, point of frustration for people, or a key cause of the frustration, is that you are making this cold. Too many of your applications are going out cold. So consider switching your strategy. All right. And so that's it. Optimize, understand what the market needs, optimize yourself and your resume to match what the market needs, and apply to warm sources. Change your approach so that you minimize rejection and frustration. Phew, that was a long answer, but that is really it if you want to get rid of frustration. Let's go to the next question. All right. So the next question is, I'm experienced in my current field, but I want to change to something I've always been passionate about. And again, I hear this a lot, right? Maybe I have 10 years doing in banking, right? And now I've always wanted to be a project manager or a writer, right? So they tell you to, I have many of the skills. I've looked at the job ad, I have many of the skills, but every time I go to an interview, they keep asking me for directly relevant experience, as they would, right? Remember, a lot of the recruitment decisions are based on the fact that the assumption, the belief that past performance, right, is the best indicator for future performance. So one of the things that they will ask you is, what have you done in the last 2 years? And the more relevant your work, your activities, your experience have been, the more likely you are to be given serious consideration, which then presents a problem for those of us who want to switch careers. So how do you deal with this? All right, so let's look at it. Well, first of all, even from the time you're doing your resume, the first thing that we tell you is find and highlight your transferable skills that are relevant to the role, right, for which you are looking to be hired, right? So yes, there will be some technical specific skills, but almost all work, right, has underlying competencies driving them. Therefore, you can kind of see how certain skills and competencies you have can serve well in a job. Let me use myself as an example. I have very strong communication. And typically when they say communication, communication is both your spoken or your oral, your written, and your presented. If you're breaking down written, they are looking at not just your ability to write business English or to communicate like generally using business documents, but are there certain technical reports you can write? Or if it's a marketing role, do you understand how to communicate, to persuade? So I have strong communication skills across board, right? I first started my career in marketing. Then I took one of the strongest reasons for which I was hired as a salesperson, which is kind of related, is that same ability to persuade people either in writing or in presenting, in sharing concepts. That same communication skill has also then served me as a trainer. So you see, for every career change, communication skills, as one example, right, is very useful. So what you do is step back and you ask yourself, looking at my skill set, what are my transferable skills? Which one are most relevant, right, for where I'm going to? That's step one. Still, you can, in fact, you can even have those communication skills, those transferable skills highlighted. You could even have done certification in the place where in the field that you'd like to go to, and people might still be leery. That kind, okay, we know you have it on paper, but we really want somebody who has done it before. The next thing I would ask you to do is to be very clear about what advantage you would bring over someone who directly matches. Sometimes the fact that you are more experienced, say managing people, right? Or, doing something similar, maybe reports, maybe data analytics, look for those unusual advantages that you have by virtue of where you're coming from that someone who directly matches may not necessarily have. There's also the thing about adjusting your expectations and being prepared to start at a slightly lower level. It doesn't always happen. For instance, if you're a customer services manager, right, and you want to become a project manager, you may have to start as a project coordinator. You must be, ready to do that, to be able to plug in. I'm not saying it's impossible to be hired as a project manager. I'm saying it's more likely if people are not sure to want to test you at a lower level, or for you to be able to compete more effectively, bringing your experience to bear, right, in a slightly lower level of where you're going to. There's that. Okay. Then the other thing you can do directly is to build experience, right? Remember, from the point of view of the employer, the biggest factor is risk. People are reluctant to take a chance. That's why they want to know that you have done it before, right? Okay. So in your regular job, you may not have done it, but what are the ways in which you can build this same evidence? You can volunteer. Find organizations around you that need, and it may be non-governmental organizations, it can even be like a social interest group, an affinity group, or a lot of startups now offer some kind of internship opportunities, or you can volunteer to work with someone who is an expert, to help out someone who is an expert in the field, right? Just so that you can have it. And there are also online kind of apprenticeship opportunities if you search for them, depending on the field. But your goal is to, okay, I'm not getting paid for it, but let me do this thing so that I can put it on my resume that I have done A, B, C, D, E. For instance, if you're looking to go into HR, right? Um, there are many organizations, I mean NGOs, right? Smaller organizations that after you've gotten certified, of course, you must of course learn the rudiments of the thing, first of all, but that require, create policy for me. We're doing recruitment drive. If you can find an opportunity to volunteer, brilliant. If you cannot, find someone who does it for a living, maybe a consultant, and say, let me apprentice with you. But the thing is, build, evidence. For the people who are doing graphics, who are doing writing, who are doing projects. I build, go out and write. You don't have to be working for someone to write, right? Or to create visuals. So build your portfolio of work, right? Another way to also build experience, show evidence, is to share your knowledge, right? So you can speak to specific problems or topics. You can explore them, you can make videos about them, etc. Essentially, your goal here is to build evidence. Another way that you can break in is you can target bigger companies, of course, are harder to get into. So you can target startups and smaller companies, people who may not necessarily be able to afford the top gun talent, right? But I will be more open to take a chance on you, given that you can bring solid experience from elsewhere, and they know that you're kind of learning to apply on this one. So target, the smaller companies. There's that as well. And then, of course, build your referral network. So look for people who can refer you. Referrals are so important, no matter what type of work you're looking for. Really important. See if you can build referrals. Find other leaders, peers within the space that you want to go into. Get to know them, find out what it's like to work with them, see if they will share opportunities with you or will be willing to refer you to work on a project, for a job, whatever. Last but not least, you can offer a quid pro quo. So what I mean is, so you already have skills, right? Valuable skills. And then this company you're talking to is looking for is a different, for the skills around the role that you're interested in, right? But they also have a need for your kind of skills. Let me illustrate more clearly. So if you're looking to break into marketing, right? But you're coming from, say, a project management experience or customer service background, even though you don't have direct marketing is their core business, right? Even though you don't have marketing skills, you have your customer service, you have your project management. You need to find out, do they have a need? And they usually do, especially for smaller businesses. They tend, not always, that's wrong with you, they tend to have operations issues. They tend to have, especially on the delivery side, right? So see if you can get in like that. If you come and say, look, I have experience, I've had success managing teams, either serving customers or delivering on project, just working with my example, and I can bring this to you. In exchange, I want to get to know this business well. You may well be able to find someone, right, willing to give you a chance. You're giving them something they don't have to get something they have. So it's like vice versa. All right, so that's it for that question. Oh, time is fast spent. I have time to take just one more. Let me find the next one, and then we are done. Okay, so let's take this one. I have an interview coming up for a risk management specialist position, and I was wondering if anyone has any advice for this interview. Thanks in advance for the help. All right, so interview preparation, that's it essentially. Well, regardless of the role that you've been invited to attend, there are certain steps that you take to prepare for an interview. The first one, and people do not spend enough time doing this, is research. You have to research the hell out of the role, right? Because remember, so they've shortlisted you based on what you've said on your resume or what they've seen on your LinkedIn profile, maybe based on recommendation, right? So they've seen some of the hard evidence. When you're coming into an interview, they are going to be checking for, can you do the job? That is, do you have the knowledge, the skills, and the experience to do the job? Even though based on some of the things you've submitted, they can see that you say you can, but expect that a couple of questions will come up to test that can you. The next thing is, will you do the job? That is, are you interested enough? Are you motivated enough? Right? Um, are you able to bring in the energy, the passion to really push through to do a good job? And then the third and biggest one they're usually looking at is, do you fit? So this person can do the job. This person is really motivated and will do the job. But does the person really belong on our team? You may have heard the saying, people often get hired for skills and get fired for attitude. That fit, is the attitude. That's where they're checking the softer things. If you have this understanding, then it then informs your attitude toward, or your strategy for preparing for the interview. So as I said, step one, research. You are asking questions not just about yourself, your skills, and your strengths, not just understanding the role very well and how you match to the role, but you're stepping back and asking yourself, what are they really trying to achieve? What do they need the person in this role to achieve? They would have said so in the job purpose. But now this is where you bring your maturity, and your understanding of the business to play. So generally speaking, what are the industry conditions? So for instance, for risk management, let's say I'm an insurance company in Lagos and I'm the one has called you in for an interview. Some of the questions you should be asking is, are there any peculiar risk issues in the Nigerian market, right, that someone who's responsible for managing risk for this company should know? And how would I tackle them, right? Have they had any major risk issues, they themselves, in terms of the company? Have they had any major losses? Or who is their biggest customer segment, and what challenges, right? What losses have taken place there lately that this company has to better manage for? So, what is prompting their hiring? If you do your research properly, then you can step into that interview room, not just as an applicant, but as a solutions provider. I say work towards getting to the point in the interview where it's not us, you versus us. It is we are professionals together trying to solve a problem. Conversation gets better like that. So you really, 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 really need to do your research. Other things you must check out is who was in the role before. If you can find someone at the company to talk to, very good. It will give you an indication. Who will you be reporting to? Are they in the news? What are their interests? Check out their LinkedIn profile. Google them, right? It's always easier to build rapport when you can demonstrate that you've made the effort to get to know them, properly. Let's say, for instance, you went in and you have already searched the MD, and the MD has spoken for about risk somewhere, about the approach to risk somewhere. If you go into the interview and you give an example, right, or you say something and says, that agrees with his position, you're more likely, if he's the one interviewing you, of course, you're more likely to get alignment, to create rapport. So research, very, very important. And then you need to, of course, consciously match yourself, because they'll be asking you, they'll be probing for how. And remember that these people are working with they're ticking off against certain standards and criteria. So you yourself must, bring yourself to sit on the other side and be rigorous about ticking off those boxes. And here's the biggest tip I have for you. Companies have different approaches, right, to interviewing. But if you step far back enough, you'll find that the general practice has been, or has become, companies tend to probe for fit with what we call behavioral questions. Remember what I said to you about the past, right? The assumption or the general understanding or belief that past performance is a reliable indicator for future performance. The behavioral questioning approach tends to, is based on that. And so, you will hear, when you're asked a behavioral question, what we want to hear is your own specific experience. A good way to structure your response would be, what was the challenge? What actions did you take? what results came out. Just think about it: challenge, action, response. Then, even in considering behavioral questions, there are some general behavioral questions that tend to happen very frequently in interviews. Identify those and practice your answers to those, right? Things like, why should we hire you? What are your strengths and weaknesses? Um, Tell me about a time when you faced a challenge in the past. Tell me about a time when you've managed a difficult colleague. Of course, the behavioral questions they choose will be around the specifics for that role, but there are general questions that you should. And I strongly advise that before they start inviting you to interviews, get some of these behavioral questions and practice. There are some answers that will not change, right? Yes, there will be there's context, but for instance, what are your strengths? Of course, you will pick this, highlight the strengths that are relevant to the role, but generally, I mean, you will know what your strongest strengths are. So if you've practiced those questions over and over again, it then becomes automatic. I didn't say cram, but practice. It becomes automatic to answer them, so that you can then focus your attention on preparing to answer the questions that are specific to the role. If you get the commonly asked questions, why should we hire you, out of the way, you know them, it comes automatically to you. You've been practicing them long before they called you for this interview. What then happens is you can spend your prep time for this specific interview, going through what are the examples where you've shown maybe strong risk management capabilities, specific questions that may come up. But generally, so that's it in review. But generally speaking, right, the biggest issue with interviews is a lack of confidence, and you get rid of that by researching, getting the knowledge you need, practicing so that you can deliver confidently, right? Practice, practice, practice. All right, so that's all. We've taken a few questions. That's all I'm able to take on this episode. We're at 30 minutes. Join me again next week where we'll take some more questions. I hope you found this useful. Thank you so much for joining. We're on again at 12 noon, same time, same places next week. Take care and bye.